Jerusalema ikhaya lami ilondoloze uhambe nami zungangishi.
Yes, you can go.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome back to our third installment of the COVID-19 bereavement training for carers. I trust you've had a pleasant week and trying to stay safe away from this virus. Obviously, we know we can't avoid it altogether, but we're just trusting that you're all staying as safe as possible, taking the measures to do what needs to be done. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Effie Mabika, and I'm the founder and CEO of Step Up Youth, which is a program that, we're an organization that exists to promote social inclusion by working with people from the BME communities who face structural barriers and are exposed to systemic injustice on the grounds of their ethnic origin. We also provide development opportunities for young people through platforms and programs to engage them and give them the right tools to excel in life. So more information can be found on our website, which is www.stepupyouth.org.uk. So within our organization, there are many projects and programs that we're working on. And the one that we're currently doing is this one, which is Care for Carers, of which this training is part of it. Another aspect of it is that we're providing food parcels for those that are disadvantaged within our communities. So today was actually a very good day because a few of us got together, some volunteers and some of our staff, and we actually went out shopping for ethnocentric or Afrocentric food, because obviously we're catering to the BME community, and we're able to get some food, put it into food parcels and deliver it to various peoples that are in need within our community. And also we went to Clock House Community Center, which is based here in Greenwich, and dropped some food, and they were very, very grateful as well. So I'm just going to ask Mary to play some video footage for us, just for us to see the totality of what this program encompasses. So you can play the videos, Mary.
We're in Addis, and this is the former manager for this organization. Unfortunately, he's going to leave. This is his last shift, but he's been so helpful to us. He's been serving us. He was making sure that we receive everything that we want. We even got a discount at Addis. So, our manager, if you want to say something, and we want to thank you for your help that you've given us.
We're really happy that you came to buy all this stuff in our shop. We hope that we will help out the youths that are really in need, and we wish them all the best. And we pray that they will have the strength to get out of their present situation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kevin McBrien. I'm the manager of the Clock House Community Centre in Woolwich Stockyard. I just want to say a huge thank you to the representatives today from Care for Carers, who very generously have brought over lots of food, huge amounts of food, for us to donate to people in the local community. There's lots of people who live locally who we know are struggling through this COVID crisis, and donations such as this are hugely helpful, very generous, and we cannot thank Care for Carers enough. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much for Care for Carers, for your support. We appreciate it. This has helped the community, especially the local community. At this time of pandemic, there's a lot of people in there, they struggle to come out and get something to eat. But with your this support, all the communities will be happy. We enjoy it. You're always welcome here anytime, any day. We thank you. And then community fund supported by lottery. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And I'm a volunteer in Step Up Care for Carers, and I think this is amazing to have this kind of food just being given for free. After this pandemic, a lot of people have not been working, so this is a wonderful thing. Thank you, Community Fund.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We love you. Thank you. Yeah. Woo! We're at Clockhouse Community Center right now, just giving out the food that we've spent the whole day shopping, and it has been an amazing experience. It's really amazing to be able to volunteer and make a difference in our community, especially during the pandemic, because it's really a difficult time for a lot of people, especially within the BAME community. So we're very thankful to the National Lottery Community Fund, and this is what we've managed to do.
So we will obviously upload a bit more on our website so that you can also have a look to see what we're up to. Would like to thank the National Lottery Community Fund, who has made this project possible for us to carry out the training, the distribution of foods and different items that can help people within the community. I must say today was really a blessed experience for us, because we were able to see that it really is much more blessed to give than to receive. I mean, this is all the food that we managed to have and package into different parcels. Some of it we distributed it to people's homes, and other food we were able to give people at the Clockhouse Community Center. So that was actually amazing. Just seeing people's faces light up, you know, and looking into their eyes that they've got hope of not having to worry about where their next meal is coming from. For us, that was just amazing. It was just an exhilarating experience, and we just hope we'll be able to get more volunteers to come on board to help us. We'll be having this monthly as well, the food distributions for the next 3 months. So if you would like to become part of our volunteers or part of our team, do send an email to info@stepupyouth.org.uk. That's info@stepupyouth.org.uk. So on to the business of the day. I would like to introduce, first of all, our training director, Mary, who kindly is going to share her experiences of when she contracted the COVID-19 virus, what that meant in terms of her relationships with her family, how it changed the family dynamics, and how she was able to cope and overcome through that situation and that experience, which I believe is going to be useful for all of us. So Mary, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Epi, and I'll welcome everybody else as well. So just as how Epi has mentioned, I shared with her my testimony yesterday, I believe, and she asked me to also come on here and also share it as well, and it might be a blessing to somebody else, and also giving you the details of my experience. Well, I've just come out of it. I think my last day of isolation was Monday, and it was a different experience, completely, just like how if you ever have had a flu, just times it by 10. And it was a really huge impact. I never really expected, I never knew what it was. And because sometimes I play things off and I don't really check in so much on my health, as much as my mom always say, you need to make sure you're drinking, make sure you're getting fresh air, even though just open your window, get the fresh air, drinking fluids, making sure your food is, you're eating. I mean, she made sure that she was there always constantly, making sure that I had that support. And with that, of course, as well, having that support as well, you're isolated. I was isolated in my room because I'm in my family home, isolated in my room, and you get to, of course, during the time, of course, I was ill. I wasn't really thinking of going out all the time or anything because I was just in pain. Our body aches, everything, and I was in bed rest. I couldn't move out of my bed and everything and all that, and didn't even want to. And just wanted to sleep. Just wanted to have just painkillers. Had some antibiotics, and it was what kept me basically going and making sure that I drink and homemade fluids. As you know, most of you probably, you have like concoctions that your parents have always made you when you're ill. Mine, like lemon, ginger, the nuts and everything, garlic, everything. So it was a 10 days experience that I've never experienced, but it was coming out of it that was actually most difficult. Because of course, you're just taking care of your health. But now coming out of it and being isolated on your own, in my room, everybody in my house had to isolate as well. Everybody had to stay in their rooms as well. And I was isolated, having to come back and reconnect back to people, and also reconnect back to other people on messages as well, to reply to message I hadn't replied for the past 2 weeks, try and catch up with most of the people that I'd sort of not replied to, reconnecting back, and then reconnecting back to work as well. That was tough. That took me 3 days to bounce back. And from Monday, yesterday was my official day back to work and actually back to normality, but it took me 3 days to bounce back. It took me a while to get back, and it was stressing and struggling, and until Wednesday, when I said, you know, I'm going to share it with I have an accountability partner where we speak every week, and I text her because we always share everything in terms of life and business and everything. And so I shared with her, I just texted, and I said, like at 12 a.m. and I said, what we spoke on Saturday morning, I'm not done anything. I am still in bed and I don't really want to do anything. I've lost my zeal of, lost my motivation of doing work, of everything. I don't know what, like, I just asked her for prayer support. And that was like at 12 a.m. I texted her. Then the next morning I woke up and I felt fresh. I had energy. And in that moment, I just thanked the Lord for that energy. And I said, actually, you know what? I'll just do it one step at a time. I don't need to go into a rush. I just do one step at a time. And so it just went in, and I was able to kind of have that bounce back, going back to my morning routine of my spirituality, my meditation, my praying and meditation was so important, because I didn't do any of that when I was ill. It's like, it's a time you may need to do it, but I just didn't want, and I opted out. And so being able to come back and having that was a bit difficult to bounce back, but I eventually did. And I saw how I started to ask the question, and when I was asking Epi, how are people coping, especially when they come out, when they've come from that isolation and not being able to reconnect. And I'm living in my family home, and I still felt alone. I felt very lonely, and not being able to just be in my room only for 10, 12 days, and being in there until I know I was safe to come out and be able just to walk around also with a mask and everything. And if I needed to do anything, and that was a big dynamic, and being able to come back to that reconnection, but also reconnecting with other people. That was, and also I guess that's why Epi asked me to share, because I asked that question, what is out there that for people who to be able to come out? I know because it can be quite a lonely experience, especially if you're alone. And yeah, so that's my testimony coming out of it. And of course, with that, yeah, just bringing in mindfulness and doing mindfulness, being in that space of creating mindfulness weekly live on YouTube, so that people can have that moment to learn mindfulness for beginners, meditation for beginners, just to have that moment, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, it'll vary every week. but I'll be doing that on my YouTube channel. Just it's my, because I saw that need, and seeing how we can progress with that. Also, even with Step Up Youth and how that will be in the works. No comments until it's really out there. But yeah, that's my testimony. Epi, thank you so much for allowing me to share that, and I hope it blesses. And also, if anybody's going through that, just I pray that you get well, and if even any flus or anything, because it is the flu season, that God may give you strength and take care of you in this moment. And also know that Step Up Youth is here. Also, we are there, and you can always send an email to info@stepupyouth.org.uk if you need just that support or connection to anything we're doing. So definitely check us out. But thank you, Epi.
You're very welcome. We'll just give you a virtual round of applause, Mary. Thank you so much. Yes.
Yay!
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Mary, and we're grateful that you still maintained your life. We know it's not a lot of people who are able to overcome the disease. It's very dreaded. And thank you for being vulnerable enough to open up and be authentic about your experiences, the reality of it, that, you know, all the terrible things that you faced and were able to overcome, and how it also affected your family. So we want to encourage more people to be coming out and sharing their experiences, because what we find is that within the BME community, when we do home visits, obviously we're doing visits, maintaining social distance, putting on our masks, and really making sure that we're all protected. But we find that some people within our community, they like to hide the fact that they've got the disease. So that doesn't actually help people. It's better to open up and say you've got it, so that you can find treatment and be helped, so that we reverse even the adverse effects of it and stop the spread of it. So just to encourage the people from our community, please, 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 let's be open about it. Let's support each other. As Mary iterated, info@stepupyouth.org.uk. Reach out to us. We'll be able to help you. If you feel alone during this period, if you're afraid, again, we're here to support you. For those of you that have lost loved ones during this season, we do send our condolences, and we pray that God can see you through the season. So moving on, we are extremely excited today that we have our psychologist Sandra is back with us. Sorry, just 1 minute. We're saying we're very excited. We've got our psychologist Sandra back with us. And for those that had tuned in the time that she came, you know that it was an amazing session. We learned so much about trauma. It was an introduction to trauma, but I, for one, was really touched to even know that something like someone putting a mask on, for one who has been through, if they've been gagged before by a partner, or if they've had some sort of trauma where, you know, someone has held their face in the past, having a mask on can actually trigger those emotions. So it takes them back to that time. It takes them back into anxiety and panic, and all these mental health effects get triggered as well. Mental illnesses get triggered. So something as simple as that can really trigger someone back to a bad experience of trauma that they had in the past. So I'm really, really excited that we'll be able to learn a bit more about trauma, to delve deeper into what exactly trauma is and the strategies to be able to cope with trauma. And once we're aware of this as carers, it's easier for us to then look after the people that we look after in our communities. And also, we will also have less judgment on certain people that we find walking around without masks, because definitely we have to adhere to the guidelines, but you also need to be cognizant of the fact that with some people, it actually is a trigger. So they, or other people that have health conditions, it is a trigger for them as well. So without much ado, I would like to introduce again Sandra. Sandra is a chartered and registered practitioner psychologist. She brings 25 years experience to the field of mental health. Sandra has extensive experience of working with individuals, groups, adults, adolescents, and children to treat emotional problems in the NHS, Ministry of Defense, social services, voluntary sector, and private sector. Sandra also has a keen interest in cross-cultural work and integrating spirituality and faith in therapy and mediation. Sandra also has worked as a certified victim support volunteer, supporting victims of crime, including sexual violence, domestic abuse, and she also offers expert witness services, supervision, and in-training therapy for trainees. So please welcome back our psychologist, Sandra Mtandabari. Woo!
Hello, ladies. Hello, ladies. Thank you for that, Epi. Thank you. It's lovely to be back with you ladies again. I missed the last session. I also, unfortunately, as Coach Mary has been sharing her experience, have been through the whole COVID experience. In fact, it happened after the last session I presented. I think at the end of that session, I had a bit of a tickly dry throat, and I think people remember I was drinking my tea throughout. So the very next day, I was taken to bed for, I think, up till probably around the 5th of January. So my husband and I were in the house. We both had COVID, and it's, you know, an experience to talk about another day. But I think I'm going through that moment of physician, heal thyself. Just like Mary, where I'm going to have to be learning all the things that I tend to share with other people with regards to self-care especially. So this, you know, opportune moment that we're here together is also a place for me to, you know, hear what it is that I'm sharing and perhaps begin to put it into practice as well. So I'm excited to be back, and today I'm going to share quite a bit on how to help yourselves. And the COVID situation is quite traumatizing. So it's not just traumatizing to the person that has the trauma, but also to people around them, because you're dealing with death. It's a near-death experience that you're constantly having to, you know, live with. And also this uncertainty that, you know, again, that's another existential given that we have to work with uncertainty. And so we are in what we would call the age of anxiety, where people are challenged to reflect on priorities, to think about, you know, things that they would never really have thought about. So I look forward to sharing with you today and just having a little bit of a brief recap from what we did 3 sessions ago. We looked at the impact of coping, of trauma and coping strategies. So it was really more of an introduction, as Epi has said. And so today I'm going to delve into a couple of sections where we'll look at different aspects of what happens when people are traumatized and then how to deal with that. And it relates very much to the current season we are going through, because you're going to have people re-triggered. These are techniques and interventions that you can apply for yourself and learn and draw from, but also be able to help other people around you. So I hope you will find the work, the work that we're going to do together beneficial. So when you're ready, Coach Mary, do put up the slides for me. Thank you. Okay. So today we're going to be focusing on coping strategies and techniques, looking at, you know, the impact of trauma. And do I have control or you have control, Mary?
You should have control now, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. Just hold on and yeah.
Okay. Oops, I've jumped ahead of myself. It's very sensitive, yeah. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at the previous one I'm after, yes. Re-experience and intrusion. So this is the most common, oops, yeah. Just one touch of the mouse. I seem to go, yeah, okay, let's see if this works, yeah. So re-experience and intrusion. So one of the most difficult responses to a traumatic shock is the way that the brain responds. So as Mary was sharing her experience of COVID, that's a traumatic shock to the body. The one thing about COVID is that it really wears your body out. You know, you're having experiences that you've never had before. And similarly, a traumatic shock can happen, you know, if you're, you know, assaulted or, you know, invaded in some way. And the response that's, you know, very difficult is the way the brain responds by repeating the worst part of the experiences, such as images, thoughts, flashbacks, dreams, and nightmares. So you're constantly going to be taking yourself back to that particular place as though it were current, as though it were actually happening, and yet it's a past event. And that is the intrusions. So if we take guys in the military, it's as though they're back in the battlefield and experiencing it all over again, and you don't want to live like that. So it says here on my slide that re-experience is caused by instinctive processes in our brain trying to protect us from harm. So it's a natural response in a natural place if you were in the wild. But because of what has happened in the brain, which I'll talk about in the next slide, is that is now you're actually responding to a non-existent threat, a non-existing threat. So in this section, we'll look briefly how the brain functions and why any reminder of the shock, distress, or trauma experience makes people feel that they're back in that time. So this is where they say post-trauma stress disorder. So it's a post-trauma. It's a trauma that has happened in the past. So it's not in the current. That's the reason it's called a post-trauma. So this slide I'm going to look at, the next slide here, is the brain and trauma. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on this one, but I just wanted you all to have an understanding, just as the heart. Many years ago in the 90s, I worked in a coronary care unit where we had to understand the heart and how the different parts of the heart function in order for you to be alive. And it's the same with the brain. The brain has different parts to it that are connected to different parts of our body, and that sends us messages, because if our brain was not connected, we would walk into fire, but our brain has cues that actually help us and keep us safe from any harm. So what we're seeing here is a colorful picture of the brain, and there are probably 3 areas of it that are very much linked to what's happening when you have a post-traumatic stress disorder. So in PTSD, you can see different parts of the brain for those from high school biology or university biology. You've got what you call the prefrontal cortex, which is where it's kind of emotional function, is emotional and regulation of emotions. So that's that part of the brain. So it says that in PTSD, it's decreased gray and white matter density. So people who have had childhood trauma actually have had a shrinking of their brain. So if a child is repeatedly abused or traumatized in childhood, it actually affects them physiologically. So it's not just emotionally that they're affected, they get affected physiologically. So when you're now doing work with them psychologically, you're trying to rebuild some part of their brain that's been affected. So part of your actual brain, if you're constantly living in fear, I think for those of you who may be of Christian persuasion, you will notice that the Christ always spoke about fear, fear not, fear not, don't worry. So he was very much of a cognitive behavior therapist. He spent most of his time talking about how your thinking is what makes you stunted. So he would say to this guy, rise up and take up your mat. It was the belief that actually I can rise up. He didn't go and lift him up. So that's what happens with the brain. The brain is instructed. And so we are constantly telling our brain quite a lot, and fear is one of the areas where, we have to regulate ourselves. So it says decreased responsiveness in trauma and emotional stimuli. So that's what happened to that part of the brain when you have trauma. And then there's the bit that is called the amygdala, which it says function, conditioned fear, associative learning. So you begin to learn that a dog bites, even if it's a little dog, you will run from it because you have now conditioned your thinking in that way. So it says in trauma, there's an increased responsiveness to traumatic and emotional, situations. Then you've got another, the blue bit, which says hippocampus. Again, this is conditioned fear-associated learning. And then when you have trauma, there's an increase in responsiveness in that area again, and you're constantly responding to stimuli. And then fear response, evolutionary survival. As I said, if you lived in the wild, you needed to have that response. It's quite normal and natural. When you're crossing the road, you have to look left, right to be able to keep yourself away from harm. But in trauma, again, there's a lot of stress sensitivity, and then there's a generalization of fear response. So it's very impaired because you're now just responding to anybody saying good morning and you're becoming very sensitive. So that's what's happening. So I just wanted to share to say it's actually quite a physiological experience, and it is within the brain, and then it takes part to the rest of the body. So when you're having that knotting in your stomach, it's because the messages that have been sent from your brain have gone down to that part of your body. And sometimes our bodies sends messages to our brain so that we can then respond and react. So that's what that's all about. But I like the next slide because it's much simpler and it's showing a little bit less complex diagram. But yeah. So this one is saying the amygdala is very sensitive to sensory information, and I'll share some ways that can help deal with distressing images, because that's where it's all sort of stored. The amygdala turns on the fight or flight response, and it stores memories of the event. So your brain's got like little filing cabinets, and if material is not processed in the hippocampus, which says regulates memory and emotion, you will now have, you've got like little filing cabinets where if an event happened in 1995, it's filed appropriately so that when you remember it, you don't remember it as though it's current, you remember it as in the past. But what happens with trauma is you're busy putting things in the wrong filing cabinet, so they haven't been processed fully, and therefore that's why they seem very much alive. And then that prefrontal cortex I talked about is the thinking, which is the logic, what to do. It evaluates that everything is okay. So you can see that it says there's a weak connection between the two, the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex, because the filing cabinet, which regulates memory and emotion, has got it all in the wrong place. And so it then constantly, you could be thinking logically that actually there's no harm, but if your memory keeps telling you there's harm, then, it's going to regulate, it's going to trigger the amygdala, which is part of the brain that actually, then makes you want to flee. And that's what's happening now, even when you think about people who've perhaps experienced childhood illness where they may have been in hospital with some infection in the past. The whole idea of I might catch COVID, just that statement alone can trigger an intense reaction. So the pandemic at the moment is not only affecting those people that may have encountered the actual COVID, but it's also affecting people who may have had other distressing experiences in the past in their lives. The next slide. Okay. So the brain and trauma, so it says here, whilst it can be upsetting remembering some of the things that have happened, it's important to allow the brain to see that much of the sensory information held in that amygdala area is not real. So dealing with some of the memories in a safe way can help people to regain a sense of control over their thinking. People can use techniques which I'll talk about to deal with bad dreams, nightmares, thoughts, and reactions. So as it is, some people are hearing a lot of bad news and then going to bed, processing it and waking up in sweats because of what's currently happening at the moment. And the next slide. So intervention, in these exercises, it's always a good idea to start with responses or memories which are not too distressing. So if you're ever going to enter into therapy for memory work, you always choose the less distressing and work your way up. So when a person has mastered techniques, they can then try to use them in more difficult or distressing memories. So there is something called the lavender exercise, which we can all use. It's useful when you're relaxing. So I've got like little bags of lavender here. So you can get these little pouches where they've got bags filled with lavender. It's used in, and I've got here my hanky with a bit of lavender that I picked up in the summer. And lavender is very relaxing. The oils are quite relaxing. So what you tend to do with this exercise is to pair the smelling the lavender with relaxation, so that in future lavender can bring about that deeper level of relaxation. So you can use different things that oils that you might like. And it's also used when, for example, people have been assaulted. Let's say somebody's been raped, and whenever they smell a certain type of perfume, maybe that's what the assailant was wearing. That just triggers memories. But what they now do is learn techniques to which they can use an alternative smell to bring about, you know, a sense of relief. And when you're traveling on the tubes, it's quite handy as well to always have one of these. It's you know, for cleaner air and just relaxing here. So that's already one technique that you can have and take away for yourself. So it's not very complex. It's things that are very practical and that can bring about rest, sleep. You can use it as well. I think I've got here a little burner as well with you know, some oils in the background. All those are techniques that help to relax your mind. So those are just the basic ones you can, you know, use. And then the next slide. So here we've got grounding techniques. So this is to bring you, grounding is about bringing you into the here and now. So we're having a lot of anxiety, people are distressed, there's a lot going on. People are getting into hypertension in some cases, you know. So what you need to do with the deep breathing exercise, which I can do now as you're sitting where you are with you know, just make sure you're sitting comfortably wherever you are. You just take in a deep breath and counting up to 7 seconds. And this exercise, I'm actually sharing with you now. This is where I was saying, physician, heal thyself, is very good for people with COVID who are actually going through the COVID situation. So we are doubling up here. We're talking about, you know, trauma, but we're also talking about you know, techniques that can help you, because I think everybody's aware that the COVID is a condition that's really attacking the lungs. So when you start getting all your little coughs and all that, just start learning to breathe. And then it says here, hold the breath for 7 seconds. So you breathe in, and then you breathe out for 7 seconds. So we can do that, you know, keep practicing. I know on my slide it says 5 times. And when you've done that, you will notice that you feel more relaxed. You feel more, you know, centered, you are grounded, you're back into the here and now. Your mind is no longer worrying about, you know, oh my God, if I get on a train, this is what's going to happen to me. So this exercise is a very simple way to reduce tension in the body as well, and allowing you to sleep. So that's another, you know, intervention you've bagged. So today I am really giving you all those little tools for you to take away and practice as much as you want. So the next slide, yeah. So these are more specific. So, you know, I'm sure the talk is being recorded, so you can always look for resources. So this is what we will do with anybody that comes to therapy. So if, for example, the trauma that you've experienced is imagery-wise, so you saw people in a fire, you saw people shot back in Rwanda, wherever, you saw somebody being chased by the police and there was an incident. That is a visual, you know, picture that you continue to see, and that can cripple you, it can freeze you, and you probably, you know, find yourself, you know, seeing that vision all over, whether it's in dreams. And so with the imagery techniques is to deal with the situations where you perhaps have seen an incident. So if you remember the Grenfell fire, people would have seen horrific situation there. You'd have seen, you know, perhaps people jumping out of windows. I think some of us actually saw that. And if you remember from the first time we were speaking, we spoke about vicarious trauma, that you might not have experienced it, but you've seen it. So secondary trauma. So you could have seen all this multiple stuff you see on television, and then you try to go to bed, you know, but the television screen can be used for positive as well. So what you do is do that little exercise where you keep your eyes open, and then you imagine that you can see a television screen on the wall opposite you. And it says, get a good picture of the television screen. And then now try to see on this screen a picture of the traumatic event. So here we are, we're seeing someone falling from the 18th floor in the tower, in the Grenfell Tower. So you can see it's alive. So whatever incident you've had that has been traumatic, you actually then see that. And then it says, you can see the colors and the images. If it's a fire, you can see the redness and everything. Then what you do is you do a mental change. It says change the color so black and white, and see what happens. So you're now changing the color. So you changing it instead from color, where you can actually see, change it visually to black and white and see what happens. And then it says you get a moving picture like a film. Imagine using a remote control and freezing it, control freeze frame. So you're in charge of your mind, and you can do the freeze the action. So whatever it is that you're visualizing, you can actually do this television screen exercise, and, you know, have the remote control, rewind and play back, and you can do all that and then speed it up. So you're fast forwarding, you're seeing someone falling from the tower, but you're fast forwarding. So it means that you're having control. So you change the colors again. And then it says, watch as the picture gets fuzzy and blurred. So like a bad reception, and see if you can change the contrast of the picture so that it fades. So I'm saying you've got the remote control, that vision you keep seeing, play around with it and imagine you know, pressing the button on and off, and then switching off the television. So it's an exercise that you can do over and over again. So all this, I'm just giving you an overview of techniques that are out there to help you to cope. You don't always necessarily have to go out there to see a therapist. If you know, now that you know you've got all these techniques you can look for, that you can actually use. So we use these to give people to go home and practice more and more, and they come back and say, yeah, it's actually been helping. I've been using the television screen, you know. So this one, I just wanted to give you an overview of one of the techniques that, you know, we use to help when your trauma is visual. So the next slide is we're going to talk about, I think, okay. Oh, sorry, I'd skipped one. Yeah, so the imagery techniques, so auditory techniques. Again, sometimes you've had loud bangs. So if we give an example again of people in a war zone, they will hear these distressing sounds. If you've ever lived, let's say you've had a neighbor that was going through domestic violence, you will hear those sounds, and you'll notice them being loud, and at the end of it, what you want to do is work on hearing those sounds again, but then getting back to the whole notion of controlling them, like as though it was a radio. So in my second point, it says, now imagine that you're reaching forward to turn down the volume. So that noise is still there. So you want to play it again, but reduce it yourself. What you're doing is learning not to run away from the sound, but to tolerate it, and then learning a technique to internalize and actually turn it down further and further until the noise gets quieter. and switching it off. So it's going to come, thoughts, feelings, and so thoughts and feelings are constantly with us. The person who does not have thoughts is actually a dead body. As long as you're alive, you're going to have thoughts coming, floating. They come in the form of dream when you're sleeping. They come, but what you're wanting to do is not respond to those thoughts. So these are typical techniques of responding to thoughts, visions in a different way. Rather than actually attempting to escape, what you're doing is actually regulating your responses. So that's the imagery technique. And then the next slide. Okay. So Coach Mary, I think between, so before we go to the next slide, I would like Coach Mary to come in with one technique that will help us. And this is a technique that involves what we call progressive muscle relaxation, where you're learning to regulate some of your emotions and behaviors. So with the muscle, the progressive muscle relaxation, that just helps you to calm some of your anxiety levels and activities that's happening in your body. So Mary, if you can come in with that, I'll be most grateful. Thank you.
So I will go through progressive muscle relaxation, and I'll do like a short, sweet one that all of you can just do it wherever you are. And even as before, as Sandra was speaking about breathing in and doing the deep breathing, 7 seconds in, hold, 7 seconds out. In this moment, I'm sure you're already sitting in a comfortable place and you've been doing that. So just continue with that comfortable place and just make sure that your mics are muted, just in case it gives any feedback. I will try to do the control, but I know Epi will also try and do the muting if any background noises comes through. But just make sure that your mics are muted so that it doesn't give a feedback whilst people are in that moment of just muscle relaxation. So I'll do a simple one, so it's not too much, but where you are seated right now, just go into that moment of stillness where you are comfortable, sit in a comfortable place, position, upright, and you can place your hands on your knees, just relax them and just feel your whole body come into that state of relaxation. And in this moment, you can go ahead and close your eyes and bring your awareness just into your inner body. Just continue to breathe. You can do some this breathe moment where no alterations, no manipulations, just breathe as normal, just breathe. I apologize for the behind noise of printing. It's gone and I can't stop it. But just go into that moment of relax your muscles on your legs, on your feet, the soles of your feet. Just feel all your muscles relaxing. Just relax, release. Relax on your calves, lower legs, your knees, your upper legs, thighs, hips. Just feel it all come into that state of relaxation. Just relax your muscles. And just continue to breathe, just the way you breathe. No alterations, no manipulations. Feel your lower body relax, release all your muscles. Your lower body, your abdomen, your lower back, upper back. Feel your spine come into that state of relaxation. Feel your upper chest, your upper body, your shoulders, your arms, your forearms. Just feel it all come to a state of relaxation. Continue with that relaxation and relax all your muscles. Your neck, your face, your eyes, your nose, your forehead, your head. And just feel that your whole body just come into that, relaxing your muscles. And just breathing in. And you can stay in that position as you continue to listen to Sandra. She continues her training on the impact of trauma, and also this coping strategy you can do on your own at any time when you need just that moment. Just relax your muscles and just go each body part and feel your whole body come into that. Relax your muscles and release. And back to you, Sandra. You'll have to unmute yourself. Awesome.
Unmute. Thank you, Mary. You see why I thought you should do it. Your voice is calming. Thank you so much. Yes. So the next session, we're going to concentrate a little bit about arousal and negative thinking. So what happens with trauma is that you're aroused. And again, we're really looking at techniques here of just calming that arousal and looking at ways, simple ways in which we can deal with the negative thinking. One of the most distressing reactions to a traumatic bereavement is the way that the mind and the body become over-aroused and anxious. I think we are getting more than just double doses in this current situation. We are seeing family members that are dying in doubles. So I can speak recently of family member friends where they've lost their mother. 2 days later, they've lost their father to COVID. And so their response is really much of, arousal and anxiety of what next, what shall we do? And also because geographically there's limitations as to how much you can do. So if you think about the worldly materials that we all possess, now someone is in your father's house out there in Africa, you don't know what they're doing, you don't know who's taking care of business. So you're really extremely anxious about those things, in the physical realm, but also just really within your own mind about, whether if you go to bed today, you're going to wake up tomorrow. So there's a lot of anxiety that's floating around. And the physical responses include things like problem eating. This is where we are really faced with a challenge at the moment, whereby we are indoors and we are comfort eating. So that's affecting our physical health because, food is a comforter. I always say when I'm working with addictions, I think eating disorders is the most difficult because you do need food. So working with something that is necessary for us, whereas if you're dealing with addictions like alcohol or sex addictions or, gambling addictions, they're much easier because you can actually remove someone from them. But with food, it's easy for habits to develop because the responses that we have naturally as humans can actually include reaching out for food or not eating. So you start having digestion problems, palpitations that actually sometimes people are having anxiety attacks and panic and fluttering of the heart, and they now think they're actually having a physical problem. So that's what happens in the body. Tension, which I think the exercise which we've just done will help, difficulty in relaxing, sitting still, and there's the constant anxiety and worry and irritability and anger. And all the last four words, anxiety, worry, irritability and anger, reactions that, if you look at all the different spiritual or faith groups, you will find that they're always addressed. If you look at how the Buddhists do life, it's always about calming those four, and they talk a lot about anger. If you look at the Christ, as I said earlier on, again, he's spent a lot in his script talking about worry not, fear not, be angry and sin not. So those psychological reactions can actually blow out, but they are rooted in how we are responding and thinking about situations. So there's a lot that we need to do with our thinking. So the aim of this section is to look at ways, again, to gain control over some of these reactions that we have. They are natural, but then they can steer out of, the norm. So this is where you get the be angry and sin not, because it's about, we'll actually acknowledge that anger will come. But at this point, I then need to regulate myself. So what we're doing is working with what we call emotional regulation, where we're addressing ways in which we can regulate ourselves and learn skills to actually manage our anxiety. So it's not to say these are not normal reactions, but when they become destructive, that's when you need to think about strategies to help yourself to get back to what, I think I'll share this in the next teaching, what we call when we're talking about emotional regulation, there is the calm, cool, collected zone where you want to be in. And then that way you're able to relate to other people as well. And doing the next slide. So the grounding techniques. So we've done our progressive relaxation, which uses alternate tensing and relaxing of sets of muscles in the body. So you notice that when you have a massage, you will feel, you've become more relaxed. And then I've got a visual technique which helps you to create a place where you can feel peace even for a short time. So this one's just going to be a 4-minute one via YouTube. It's called Safe and Peaceful Place Visualization. We use this exercise a lot. What I say to people is that a lot of you have invested in holidays. You've gone to Hawaii, you've gone to, Montenegro, you've gone to Italy, and you've paid quite a lot of money for your holidays. I mean, you've paid £800, 700 for a number of days. That holiday is yours for life. It's not for you to come and just live in the pictures, but it's in your mind. You've paid for it. You can keep using it. No one will come and say, well, you're no longer on that holiday. Just as you do the same thing with your mind, where you take yourself off to the traumatic incidents, you need to learn to use the positive experiences in life as a healing tool as well. So what you do is you take yourself back to the Dunn's River Falls in Jamaica, and you see yourself there. Even if you're sitting here, for 4 minutes, nobody can say, hey, you haven't, purchased a ticket to go off there, because you've paid for that holiday, you've been there. Use your holidays as much as you can for going back into that place where, I think, again, I will refer to the Christian persuasion, where it says, whatsoever things are lovely, think on those things. A vacation is a lovely thing. So you want to hold on to the memory of your vacation. Those are the lovely things they're talking about. Meditate on those things. Forget the things that are negative. So you want to hold on to the positive experiences you've had, you've invested money in them. Hey, use them as much as you can. So we're going to do this safe place, safe and peaceful place, yes. So if you can all relax and enjoy this one.
This is a safe and peaceful place visualization exercise. Performing this visualization exercise will help relax your body and mind. You may start by gently closing your eyes and getting into a comfortable position. You may do this sitting up or lying down. Begin by noticing your breath. Notice the air going up through your nose, down to your lungs, and back out through your nose or mouth. Notice your abdomen expanding and deflating as you breathe air in and out. Now visualize a safe and peaceful place. This place may be real or imagined. It can be a beach, park, hiking trail, your house, or anywhere else. Now try to get a real sense of this place, as if you were there. Imagine yourself being there. You may include other people like friends or family, or it can be just yourself. Visualizing yourself at this place now, what sounds do you hear? Are there birds chirping or people chatting? Is there the sound of water moving or music playing? Can you feel a cool or warm breeze at your safe and peaceful place? Is the sun shining? And if so, can you feel the warmth of the sun? What smells are there? Still visualizing yourself at your safe and peaceful place, what is the temperature? Is it hot, warm, or cool? Are you sitting, lying down, or walking around at your safe and peaceful place? Make this visualization as vivid as possible. Now attach a word to this safe and peaceful place. It can be calmness, peace, tranquility, or something else. Now take a deep breath in, and when you're ready, let out all of the air in your lungs. You may continue visualizing yourself at this safe place until you are ready to move on with your day.
Hey, welcome back. Do come back. I don't want you all going away to, these exotic places. They're not coming back. So this is only 4 minutes. And so that means you can just do it anytime. When you're tired of social media and all the distresses that are going on, just find yourself a YouTube clip and play that. And I remember to pair it with my lavender. So if you've got your little lavender bag, that just even takes you even further into your safe place, yeah? So I just need the previous slide before this one.
This is a safe and peaceful
place.
place.
Before this one. Okay. Yes. So what we're going to be now looking at is, so we've done the grounding techniques, and now we're going to talk about, the techniques around the thinking. So I guess we can go back to that slide, yeah. Yeah. So what I'm going to share with you is what we call cognitive restructuring, which basically means renewing your mind, changing the way you think. And I think we've already started doing that by using this, our holidays. We're focusing on the positive. We are retraining our brains and our minds. And I think earlier on I mentioned that traumatized children have actually got a certain part of their brain has shrunk. And with these exercises, you can regain the health of your brain. So the actual, I think it said white matter and gray matter, there is a shrinking of that when a child is constantly traumatized. And what you're doing as adults, when you allow these traumas of life to continue to batter you without reconstructing to hold on to the healthy aspects, is also really, really working on your brain. And that's when you end up with, poor concentration, etc. I think you've all heard about Alzheimer's disease, all those things, and they say to you, if you do more reading, if you do engage in certain exercises, it keeps your brain sharp. So with cognitive restructuring, it's really thinking about how situations, so in our box there, we've got the ABC model, and that's a model of what is known as cognitive behavior therapy, but it applies to all areas of our lives. The situation right now is we're all in this together. We're in the COVID situation. We're having all sorts of thoughts going on, negative thoughts. Some are thinking it's the rapture. Some are thinking, 5G, 6G is going to kill us. And then it's all leading to this erratic behaviors. People are doing all sorts of things and feeling quite anxious. So this vicious circle keeps going round and round. And what we want to do is break some of this circle by targeting either the thoughts and the behaviors and the feelings that we have. So right now, some of the behaviors we can't engage in that will be helpful. You have to restructure how you behave because of the COVID in itself. So you're actually having to stay indoors, and that's not good for some people. So again, that creates its own problems. So what we're wanting to do is break it somewhere so that that situation we're in is not changing, but how we respond is what we have to manage, the negative thinking. So some people are thinking, okay, I need to do something about my health. So they're doing all the steaming. So you can see that their behavior, the steaming behavior then makes them feel better and feel like, okay, I've done something, so less worry. I've killed this virus in my nostrils if it did ever enter there. And the thinking is already modified. You've already got a different type of thinking. So you can see how all this is linked. And what you're wanting to do is learn to hold on to the thoughts that are positive in order to then influence how you behave and so forth. And I think last time you all remember when I was saying that we are physically distancing, but not socially distancing. So that's important to hold on to, so that you don't have a negative feeling again that, oh, we can't be with each other. There are means in which technology can help you to set up groups as we're doing now and just be with each other and learn to use the resources that you have. So the physical distance is what we're having to maintain, but you shouldn't be socially isolating. You should actually be engaging, and that thinking that can help with some of what we are currently experiencing in this pandemic. So that ABC model applies to any situation in your life. It could be you're having a dispute with someone. It could be, you have a work situation. Your thoughts and your behaviors and your feelings are always interconnected. So what you're constantly doing is working to restructure your cognition. Your cognition is just your ways of thinking and seeing the world and feeling, yeah? So that's the model that you should take away and have that ABC model. A just means antecedent, which is, the activating event, and then B, beliefs, behaviors, etc. And then the C is, the consequences of what, you've done. So then that leads to change. The next slide. Oops. Coach Mary.
Yep, fixing it.
Okay, all right, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I think it's one before this one. Oh, okay, oops. After this, okay, all right, yeah, so this is it. So when it comes to challenging negative thoughts, so I've just put there a scale on the negative, how you perceive or think about yourself. So this is really a simple technique for your day-to-day life, because you can just be feeling rotten about yourself. I'll give an example of myself. I went to one town. I went to Chesant on the 12th of December. And then I had a conversation with someone who said to me, oh, somebody's been asking after you. And I happened to be in the area. And I lost all my, Boris Johnson mantra of be vigilant. So I said, oh yeah, I'll pass through and see them. And that is not where I may have got COVID, but I was convinced that I visited somebody who wasn't well and actually lost all my guard. And then I, entered into their home. And by the 18th, on the day that I was doing the presentation here, the next day I was feeling unwell. And then I calculated it and I thought, what have I done? What did I do? So I got into a circle of actually feeling guilty and condemning myself because my husband became ill with it and I could have killed him. So I started having all this negative thinking. And I think with COVID at the moment, it's probably more of the cognitions and the thinking that you have, the feelings of guilt, oh, what have I done? And you can end up in these sort of dichotomies of I'm a bad person or I'm reckless. And when you consider yourself to be a very proper person who is very much aware and you're also guiding other people and telling them not to do this, then you find, but then that might not have been where I got the COVID, could have been in the supermarket. But because I got into this thing, maybe because of my personality, I started looking at, oh, it's my fault, I did this and that. And you can get into that, but it doesn't birth anything. It just makes you feel worse and worse about yourself. So what you're wanting to do is to learn to look at negative thoughts that cause you most difficulties. So if, for example, you're bereaved and somebody was in your care, or your father is abroad or your mother is abroad, and you start having all this rumination about things could have gone differently had I done this, you need to remind yourself that these are just negative thoughts that only you are experiencing and no one else can see them. So the question is, how real are these thoughts in terms of whether they're factual or opinions? And if something is an opinion, you need to park it on the side. So there's a lot of interventions that can help you to really deal with your self-esteem, your negative thoughts, how you look at yourself. And it says, when you think this thought, how do you feel? Negative thoughts, going back to the phrase, whatsoever things are lovely, think of those things. Those are the things that actually make you feel better and do better. Whereas if you're busy thinking, negative thoughts about yourself, you're not actually going to be productive. So you need to think about, well, actually, this was a one-off, and start thinking about the positive. I mean, I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, we survived it and we can now tell the tale. We can now witness to other people. We can say we've now got immunity in our system. So rather than look at it as a negative experience, today I thought, oh my God, I'm experiencing long COVID symptoms. I was just feeling fatigued and I thought to myself, I'm done, woe unto me. Then I'm thinking, hey, there's people that have actually had to go into ventilation. They've had to go into ventilators, but I could have built up a mountain of that. So those moments will come, and then going back to my physician, heal thyself, I now have to take these techniques and say to myself, well, actually, calm down, it could have been worse. So those are the simple techniques that you can really engage with. And it says here, can you test the truth of your thought? That's a good point there. Can you really test the truth about, some of your thoughts? So that's the negative, challenging the negative thoughts. And that is, just a really brief exercise I've given you, or you can go and do more research to look at, some exercises out there. There are some good exercises that actually teach you to understand the type of thinking you have, There's some people that always have the all or nothing thinking, or they have the, you know, sort of disqualify the positive style thinking or labeling. So there's different, at least about, you know, I can say about 8 styles of thinking that you people engage in. But the question is, do they really make you feel better about yourself, or you just feel even worse? So you don't really have to engage in that. Think about the positive things that you've achieved in life, where you're at and where you're going, and what you can learn from the negative experiences. So so all these are kind of negative statements we hold. I can't cope. Oh, I've got COVID. I can't cope. I'm just going to die. And yet you're actually coping. You're taking your vitamin Ds. You're doing what you need to do. And oh, I deserved this because I, you know, didn't adhere to the rules. You know, nobody's asking for this. This is just happening to people. So you have to think differently, because when you have positive thinking, recovery is also much speedier. So those are the things that you need to think about. Think on the positive side. It's not to say that negative thoughts don't come. Allow them to come. Don't fight them, but it's about how you respond to them that's very critical. And I think we come into my last slide, which is a summary, really. And that's life balance. Okay, so 2 more slides. So getting a good night's sleep is really important. I'm not alone in this 2 a.m. sleep pattern that people seem to have developed. So it says here is really important, as without sleep, we are not giving our minds and bodies essential time they need to heal. So that's very critical, establishing your rituals, getting up and just getting dressed. There are days where I'm not leaving the house, but I'm making sure that I'm not in pajamas all day. So then we can, you know, once Coach Mary opens up the floor, we can talk about some of the things that people are finding helpful as well. And then we think about achieving optimum balance in life. So you're looking at eating healthy, exercising, and, you know, doing things that kind of, you know, exercise helps you to feel good, actually. And at the same time, it says it burns up some of the excessive adrenaline, which fuels your anxiety. So how to relax and let go of some of your worries for a short while, and then finally reestablish your social contacts. When in the long term, of course, we have to do life differently. I was out on my walks, as I do, and I realized in winter, you can actually now see that the breath that someone is breathing is floating in the air. So I'm thinking, oh my God, so this 2-meter thing is really real. And so there's ways in which we really have to protect ourselves, because social contact is where, you know, we are transmitting the virus. So don't socially isolate. You can still connect with people, but physically distance is still my key phrase there. And so my concluding summary is that, yeah, diet, exercise, relaxation, remembering again, socializing, but physically distancing. So thoughts that I hope you will have for yourself is how to get more balance into your life, be aware of irrational thinking and practice positive self-talk, work on increasing your relaxation and improving your lifestyle. So whilst we are stuck indoors, I have seen so many innovations and creativity, people coming up with all sorts of ideas. There's a lot out there to do because people who are continuing with these innovations have decided not to think negatively, but to think positively of the situation. I have seen businesses that have opened in the area that I live in, floristry. I've seen, you know, all these delicatessens open. So there's a lot that you can do. Be creative, write a book. It says write up your diary. That helps for you to reflect and see on positives of the day. And so I conclude by saying, yeah, live well and just really paint, you know, just paint your life. You're the artist of your life. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if I saw a gentleman.
Wow, 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 wow. Oh my gosh, Sandra, thank you so, so much for a very insightful presentation. I'm sure we've all learned a lot of techniques for coping with the COVID situation, coping with trauma as well. So I guess for all of us, we've also just saved some money on some therapies. So thank you, Sandra. I've got some free therapy right there.
Well, thank you, Epi, for dragging me when I've got long COVID here, trying to nurse myself.
That's wonderful. I was quite intrigued to learn about the physical shrinking of the brain, because I hadn't realized that even if you have childhood trauma or as a child, that can actually happen to you. And for giving us the techniques to be able to unlearn that, so we start to heal our brain physically. So that's very fascinating to me. Also, the tips on having lavender to relax you, having it in your pillow or in your oil burner. These are all new things and new techniques that I'm sure we will all be able to implement. The television screen, having the remote control, turning on and off, that is just really, really amazing. And once again, thank you so much, Sandra, for sharing your expertise and also your experience with us as well. So I'd like to open the floor to Q&A. If you've got any questions for Sandra or any comments, anyone, please feel free to come on board and ask your questions to Sandra.
Yeah, I've got one. Comment as we wait for others to share if the one. And Epi, I think your camera, just switch it around because we can see the back side. We can't see you, just in case you haven't noticed that.
I haven't noticed.
Yeah. I think the question that Sandra had put forward for us to share, if you can share what are you doing for your life balance or something around there. And I thought that was actually a really good point, because thank you so much, Sandra. That was so useful. I've taken so many nuggets and so many things I've written down. But the one which you mentioned about, I realized even when I was coming out and reconnecting back, what I've been doing is in the morning, I actually dress up like I'm going to work. When I'm from home, I dress up and I calm down, and it helps me balance that and not stay in pajamas, like you said, and stay in pajamas and walk around still doing work but in pajamas. But I think that was really good, and I think thank you for that, and even saying about that physician heal thyself, being in that moment when you're in trauma, to get techniques out there, and actually the techniques you've given already, which of course will be on I think the Step Up Youth YouTube channel, and you'll be able to see the replay of this video when it's put out, and just take those techniques because they're very useful. And it's true, just like as how Sandra says, sometimes you may be in that place where you may not have the funds to spend on therapy, but here are techniques that have been given. She's a psychologist herself, and she does this for and she does this with her own patients and clients and everything. So these are great techniques that we can use ourselves. So thank you, Sandra, for that, because that will really help me, because I noticed about the guilty thinking. I had that at the beginning, and I was guilty thinking. I said, why did I go out, or why did I do this? Or I've given it to this person, a family member. When they were caring for me, they end up catching it. So it became a guilty moment all throughout. And even I never told anybody that I had it, because I was in that place of feeling guilty. So thank you for actually making me realize that, because I never had realized that also was what I was going through. And in that space, then I was able to share, and now I'm able to share it. But it took me a while to even mention that I had it, because I was feeling guilty that I caught it and I was spreading. And in that space, I was feeling guilty with the people I'd met. And so it was a really, really tough time. But then I've now got the technique to actually challenge the negative thoughts, and actually challenge it and ask what's the truth behind and everything. So yeah, that's just my comment, but just saying thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else, please feel free to unmute yourselves. Coach Mary, I don't know if you can unmute everyone so that people can jump in. If you like, you can raise your hands and then ask questions. We've got an expert, so let's make sure that we maximize the fact that she's here for us, and she's here to answer any of our questions.
I hope I haven't encouraged people to go off on these holidays and they're now in safe places.
I think that might have just been what happened.
Well, I've gone off to safe places.
Any comments or questions, anyone? I can see Mercy there. You've unmuted yourself. Did you want to ask something?
It was very good. There are no questions because it was so good. Even though I caught it at the end, it was just so on point. That's why, and I'm on holiday now. See you when I come back from Barbados.
Thank you.
How can we get in touch with you if anybody wants to get in touch with you?
Epi, you can share my website. I am on a website, so CPS, yeah, I'll share it in the chat box. Let me put it up.
Thank you very much. That was very informative, though. Very, very informative. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I've just put the link to get my details, email, etc.
Thank you very much. God bless you all.
See you soon.
See ya.
Nice to hear from you, Sister Modesta.
You didn't hear from me. I was just listening.
Yes,
I don't have much to say. Still
that
like
it helped me as well.
Yeah. So I'm planning to go on holiday now.
After COVID.
After COVID, yes.
Thanks.
We'll upload it on our YouTube channel. Just get the link then, or Epi then will send it to those who request, and you'll see it there. For it's refusing to share. You can hear it, but you can't see it. So
absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine, Coach Mary, and thank you for working hard behind the scenes. We appreciate you as a diligent and dedicated member of Step Up Youth. So thank you again. To everyone else, have a good night, and we'll see you on the 5th of February 2021. Okay, bye.
Thank you. Oh, bye-bye, Sandra. Thank you so much. Bye.
Sandra. Bye.
Thank you so much for Care for Carers, for your support. I will appreciate it. This has helped the community, especially the local community. At this time of pandemic, there's a lot of people in there, they struggle to come out and get something to eat. But with your this support, all the communities will be happy. We enjoy it. You're always welcome here anytime, any day. We thank you. And then community fund supported by lottery. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Jerusalem, ikayalami, ilondolo.